The imperial capital at the end of June is like a steamer on a pyre, too hot to breathe. At this time, people's tempers are extremely violent, as if the high temperature is the key to the violent temper, and they can explode in minutes. Can you drive? Can you? What are you yelling? Who are you yelling? I can't drive or you can't. You stare at me and I stare at you. After a few minutes of fighting, you can't stand the sun. You look at me, I look at you, hiding in the shade of the roadside with a tacit understanding. Down. Because of the limited area of the tree, the two stood close together. You look at me, and I look at you. For a while, there is a little bit of noise. Hey! The two heard a clap behind them, turned around and turned to look, and saw a young man sitting in the shade of the adjacent tree with white face, round eyes, some natural curls in his hair, and his left hand holding half of the boxed ice cream, his right hand is catching the mosquitoes on his leg. The young man looked up and saw them. He smiled before saying a word. Two small dimples appeared on his cheeks, looking like a shy college student. When the young man laughed like this, the last trace of anger in the hearts of the two drivers disappeared without a trace. The two looked at each other, and the overweight master took the lead and said, "Little brother, it's such a hot day, what are you doing here?" The young man bent down and picked up the wooden sign he had placed at the root of the tree, and handed it to the two of them. "Two big brothers, are you fortune-telling?" The thin driver stretched out his neck and saw that there was a black old wooden sign between the palms of an adult man. It was written with a brush, "Iron Mouth, Magic Calculation, 3 trigrams every month. Sincerity is the spirit, and fate is the calculation." This is also blunt. If it doesn't work, it's because of insincereness. It doesn't matter if the number of fortune-telling in a month exceeds the number of hexagrams, anyway, if you have fate, you can count more. Young people nowadays are too impatient, and don't know how to deceive people. However, it is also possible to meet on such a hot day. They quarreled so much that there was no one to watch the excitement, which shows how hot it is today. The thin driver wiped the sweat off his face. "Little brother, have you forgotten this month? Today is the last day of June. Isn't he still calculating the 3 trigrams of each month? Then this business is really bleak." The ice cream in the young man's hand was almost melted. He threw the wooden sign aside at random, lowered his head and quickly ate the ice cream into his stomach, turned and threw it, and the ice cream box flew into the trash can 2 meters away from him. There is still a divination this month. Who is interested in the 2 elder brothers? The young man took out an unopened wet tissue in his trouser pocket, opened it and wiped his mouth and hands, not in a hurry to persuade the two of them to believe in himself. "Turn around and throw the used tissues into the trash. Little brother, you are young, so why did you do this?" When the fat driver saw that this young man was neatly dressed and young, but he was doing such a deceptive business, he really didn't know what to say. However, this young man was extremely calm. Hearing the fat driver's words, his face did not change at all. He just looked at them with a smile, and the dimples on his cheeks were looming, which made people really disgusted with him. "How much does it cost?" the thin driver asked casually. The young man stretched out a slap. 50. The young man shook his head. 500. The skinny driver's face changed and he said helplessly, "Little brother, it's not that I don't believe you, but that 500 is too expensive." When he went back to report the account book with his wife, he said that he took 500 yuan to tell his fortune. His wife will believe it. And he felt that if this kid hadn't looked harmless, he would have rolled his eyes and left because of this lion's open-mouth behavior. The young man smiled without saying a word. He didn't tell the thin driver Mwei how accurate he was in his fortune-telling, nor did he say that he was willing to lower the price, as if it was not him who was going to fortune-telling just now, but someone else. The 3 people stopped talking, and the atmosphere was filled with a faint, unspeakable embarrassment. After 2 minutes, the fat driver glanced at the red envelopes on the young man's legs that were bitten by the mosquitoes, touched his wallet, took out 3 red tickets from the inside and stuffed them into his hands. "Little brother, this business it's not easy to do. It's hot at noon, so you go back to rest early and find a decent job. Don't do this in the future." His own child seemed to be not much younger than this young man. At this moment, he was hiding in the house and playing air conditioning games, but the young man came out alone to do this kind of thing. As long as the family's conditions are good, which parent is willing to bear the hardship? After saying this, he looked a little embarrassed and said, "I'm not fortune-telling, you can spend the money." The young man looked at the 300 yuan bills in his hand, smiled, put away the old black wooden sign on the floor, and said, "Big brother is kind, I will break the case today." The fat driver saw him with such a serious appearance, he could only smile and said, forget it, go home and rest soon." After finishing the calculation, "My eldest brother has been born with the expectation of his parents in this life. He has been loved by his parents since he was a child. He married his wife in his 20s and was in harmony with his wife. He had children and no daughters, right?" The young man leaned on the tree trunk, his voice soft, like a one. The fresh breeze makes people happy both physically and mentally. But the fat driver was shocked, because the other party was too accurate. His parents were married for many years and failed to give birth to children, but they finally had him and they were very spoiled for him. When he was in college, he met his current wife, so 2 years after graduation, they got married and gave birth to a son. The thin driver's helplessness became more obvious when he saw the fat driver's shocked look. Nowadays, fortune tellers like to play this set. They say how you have been since childhood, how your family is. In fact, as long as you are a strong observant, you can guess some clues from the words and deeds of the other party. This is basically the so-called fortune-telling has nothing to do with it. Just when the thin driver thought that the other party would continue to pull a lot of things to win people's trust, the young man didn't even say anything else. No one has a perfect destiny. He who can be perfect is already loved by heaven. The young man glanced at the fat driver's forehead. "If you believe me, big brother, when you go home today, one way to avoid catastrophe." Having said this, he carried the wooden sign in his hand and still had $300 to maintain the mysterious and expert status, and slowly walked out of the sight of the two of them. "Thin driver, there seems to be something wrong with this routine." But he didn't have time to think about it anymore, because the traffic police rushed over and began to deal with the incident. But with the previous experience of hiding under the tree together, the two took a step back and the matter was quickly settled. After a busy day outside, when the fat driver was about to go home, it was already after 9 o'clock in the evening. Because the car was sent for repair, he could only take the bus home. When he got off the night bus, when he was about to cross the alley, he tripped over a brick under his feet, and suddenly remembered the young man with dimples he met at noon. He looked at the empty alley, hesitated for 2 seconds, and finally turned around to go home in a circle. Not a few steps away, he heard a loud noise suddenly in the alley, as if some heavy object had fallen. His heart trembled, he quickly turned around and ran back, stunned by the sight of the alley. Not far from the entrance of the alley, a lot of cement, bricks, etc. were dropped. It turned out that a family's balcony collapsed and the whole fell. If he just walked this way on this hot summer night, he couldn't help but shiver. "Money, you are our second parent. Yes, I love you for 10,000 years. Get off, I don't love you." Chi Yan disgusted his roommate aside, then put the dinner he brought back for them on the table. "You divide it by yourself, I'll take a shower." The roommates watched him take out a wooden sign from his body. They were very calm, they had long been used to Chi Yan occasionally going out to pretend to be a magic stick. After taking a shower, the three in the dormitory had finished their dinner, and the whole room was full of food. He stretched his leg, kicked the stool in front of him, walked to his study desk and sat down, turned on the computer, and donated 300 yuan to a charity. The teacher is instructed to give people 3 trigrams every month. The money from these trigrams cannot be used for oneself, but can only be used for good deeds. I'm going back to my hometown the day after tomorrow, the boss smiled reluctantly. The family arranged for me the work, the salary is not high, but it is stable. He didn't have much dissatisfaction with the arrangement at home, but he was about to talk to his brothers. Separately, some reluctant. All 4 of them calmed down when they mentioned this topic. The 4 brothers have lived in the same house for 4 years, and now they have to go their separate ways. Who can be happy? Tomorrow our brothers will go out for a big meal, I'll treat. Wang Hang is the 3rd in the dormitory, a native of the imperial capital, and the family is also wealthy. Don't forget the rich and honorable. Okay, go to the big family tomorrow. Don't eat the right ones, just eat the expensive ones. Qi Yan turned off the computer and said, first serve a few cups of Wei de Hong Bao, and then get a copy of all kinds of rare seafood. What do you think? Qian makes sense. It's best to order a few more portions and pack them back for supper when you can't finish them. Speaking of eating, the atmosphere in the bedroom finally relaxed. For the hard-working and brave Chinese people, there is nothing that food cannot solve. If one meal fails, then 2 meals. The brothers chatted until they went to bed very late. As the graduation season was approaching, there were 4 people in their dormitory. Some went back to their hometown, some continued to study in graduate school, and some went home to inherit their careers. Each decided on a different path. Qi Yan turned over on the bed and fell asleep, then he had a dream in a daze. Someone in the ear kept talking to him, and then slapped him on the forehead. Call. Qi Yan sat up abruptly from the bed. The old air conditioner in the bedroom was still blowing, the sound was loud, but the cooling effect was not strong, and the effect of adjusting the gear to 24 degrees was only 27 degrees. He yawned, wiped his forehead, glanced outside the window that was still not lit, retracted into the quilt and continued to sleep. Outside the window, the half-circle moon pierced through the clouds, and the bright moonlight entered the window, casting a faint moonlight on the sleeping Qi Yan. The next night, Qi Yan and a few brothers in the dormitory went to a hot pot restaurant with good business, ordered a table full of dishes, and ate with their belly open. Let me say, eating hot pot on a hazy summer night, drinking cold beer is the best taste. The boss picked up 2 slices of lamb from the hot pot and sipped a sip of beer. Qian, what are your plans for the future? Qi Yan's name read. It sounds like money, so the entire bedroom, including the entire class, likes to call him this nickname. Take one step at a time. Qi Yan doesn't like to drink, but today is a special day, and he doesn't want to make everyone happy. He drank 2 glasses with him. His cheeks were slightly red, but his eyes were particularly bright. Anyway, I eat alone. Full, the whole family is not hungry. When his master picked him up, he was still a non-talking milk doll. After the master brought him back to Xiaodao Temple, he discovered that he was born with a toe missing from his right foot. Later, the master went to the police station in the town to call the police, and no one came to him. At that time, the people in the town were poor, with backward thinking and many children. It was probably because he had no toes, and he would be gossiped about when he was undergrowth, so he simply threw him away. At that time, there were no welfare institutions in such a small place. Seeing that no one came to look for him, the master finally saw him pitifully and raised him. The master taught him a lot of things and insisted on sending him to school. Before his death, his old man still wanted him to go to university in the imperial capital. He also gave him a real estate certificate with his name written on it and the address of the house. In the imperial capital. I really don't know when he secretly bought the house in the imperial capital. Thinking of these past events, Qi Yan pinched his nose and looked at the 3 buddies with a smile. It just so happens that my 3 trigrams are useless this month. Why don't you count them for one of you? The boss and the second child waved together. The two of them knew that Qi Yan had a habit of giving fortune-telling, but as a top 5 young man who grew up under the red banner, they still believed in science. Wang Hang, who has always had the best relationship with Qi Yan, asked with great interest, "I will count the money." Qi Yan stretched out his hand towards him and compared 5 fingers. "Is the brother asking for money?" Wang Hang was holding his wallet, his face full of disbelief. "Brother, settle the account." Qi Yan patted him on the shoulder. "I get the money to help you do good deeds, donate it to people in need. I don't think you should call money or money." Wang Hang took out 500 yuan from the wallet and took a photo of it in Qi Yan's hands. "You have to discuss this issue with my master and his elders." Qi Yan shook his money with a smile, "But are you sure you want to communicate with his elders? Don't disturb his old man's sleep." Wang Hang waved his hand again and again. "Quickly give me the calculation, how is my luck in my life?" After Qi Yan collected the money, he said slowly, "You should have a sister in your life, but it was gone because of an accident." Wang Hang waved his hand again and again. "You are not allowed, my family is just my baby, meow meow, where can I find a sister?" He said. Qi Yan has no trace of superior demeanor from head to toe. How could it really be a fortune-telling? The boss and the second child were laughing and watching the fun, not even grabbing the meat in the pot. "Don't worry, I haven't finished talking yet." Qi Yan fished the cooked lamb into a bowl, received Wang Hang's half-suspecting and half-expected small eyes, put down his chopsticks and wiped his mouth. "But in your family's good family, there may have been rare great good people in your ancestors. These merits have been protecting your royal descendants, so that you live better than ordinary people. As the saying goes, even if you have more blessings, cherish good luck." Many people have done a lot of good deeds from their ancestors, but the younger generations don't live up to it, and no amount of blessing will be wasted. Speaking of this, Qi Yan concentrated his eyes, and saw a few red and purple mists faintly appearing on Wang Hang's head. His heart was shocked. Is he improving his skills? In the past, he could at most see the ups and downs of his life fortune from the faces of others, but he could never see the other person's luck with the naked eye. According to the cultivation novel, this is simply a direct rise from the training period to the cultivation of the gods. Period, opening and hanging are open to the point where most people don't believe it. When Wang Hang saw Qi Yan staring at him suddenly and stopped talking, his expression was still a little strange, and his heart was a little nervous. "Money, money, money, what do you see? I can see that you have good luck in your life. As long as you don't do evil and don't die, it is the lifestyle of good and longevity," said Qi Yan, pretending to be an expert, shaking his head. "Fate is too good to be jealous. No way, reincarnation is a kind of technical job, most people are not as skilled as I am." Hearing such good words, whether it is true or not, Wang Hang was still very satisfied. When the boss and the second child saw this, they hushed together. The third, fourth, "You two are enough, look down at the ground, your faces are lost, do you want it?" "This is not what I said. It is Qian who said that my life is good." Wang Hang pointed at Qi Yan. "Even if it is shameless, it is money, and it has nothing to do with me." Qi Yan shook his head and sighed. "How do you stupid mortals understand the loneliness of an expert? Vomit! Don't disgust us. Do you want to eat hot pot? Fuck, my lamb! Money, money, when did you sneak so much lamb into your bowl?" Qi Yan glanced at it. "The expert is doing it, can you see it?" The other 3 people in the dormitory squinted at this expression, and responded vividly to his shameless remarks. The meal was eaten very late. The 4 of them came back to the dormitory with the smell of hot pot, drunk and humming. The only sober Qi Yan put them in bed and came back after washing. They saw that the 3 of them did not vomit and breathe. It was also normal, so he went back to his bed and fell asleep in peace. In the middle of the night, I don't know who said a few words in sleep. Qi Yan turned around in a daze, facing the window, his entire face was plunged into the bright moonlight. A few days later, the 4 people in the 4605 dormitory moved out of the dormitory one after another, and then began their separate journeys. As the family's most beloved Meow Meow, Wang Hang received the warm care of the whole family when he returned home. The most direct expression is a large amount of pocket money and a table full of vegetables. "Grandma, I can't eat any more." Wang Hang clutched his stomach, slumped on the chair, listening to the elders at home chatting gossip. What kind of owner's daughter found a scumbag, and now she is cheated by the scumbag for money and sex, and even the company's equity has been defrauded. That's why it's not a good idea to be a human being, Mother Wang sighed. That girl is pretty and she is energetic, so why did she come across such a thing? Father Wang nodded repeatedly, expressing his great agreement with these words. But Mother Wang obviously hadn't come out of her anger. If our daughter hadn't had a miscarriage back then, she would be about the same age as that girl. If anyone dared to lie to her like this, I would definitely kill him. Mom. Wang Hang bounced off his chair. What did you just say? Daughter? Abortion? The amount of information is a bit large, and he can't accept it. Only then did Mother Wang remember that her son was still present, and condensed her emotions and said, "Do you know the girl who was deceived?" "No, I'm talking about the latter sentence." Wang Hang carefully observed the expression. "You were really?" "I was pregnant with a daughter, but had a miscarriage?" Mother Wang's voice was a little low. "It's all over 20 years ago, what are you asking for?" Thinking of the daughter who has already formed, she felt a little bit distressed, and she didn't want to say more. Seeing that his mother's face was not so good, Wang Hang didn't ask any more questions, just sat back on the chair in a daze. "You should have had a sister in your life, but it disappeared because of an accident." When Qian said this sentence to him, he didn't care at all. He didn't expect this sentence to be fulfilled so soon. Could it be that money is really a clumsy man who is hidden in the city? After returning to the room, Wang Hang excitedly called Qian, wishing Qian could count on him again. When Qian received a call from Wang Hang, he was helping a mother and a son with a fortune-telling. To be precise, he was helping the son of the mother and son with a fortune-telling, but the son was impatient, but his mother was very polite, even though he was right. He held a dubious attitude, but his attitude was very good. "Mom, what age do you still believe in this?" The boy glanced at Qian disgustingly. "Even if you want to tell a fortune, you have to find someone like me. This person is not a few years older than me, so what can he be?" In fact, he also wanted to say that just like this little white face, this man doesn't seem to be a fortune teller. Qian smiled without saying a word, and glanced over the boy. "Very good, Cao Nian, you succeeded in getting my attention." So, when the boy's mother was about to apologize, Qian spoke. "Ling Lang's fortunes in this life are pretty good. There should have been a flood at the age of 4, but fortunately the help of the nobles made it through. There was also a disaster at the age of 12, but it can be regarded as a surprise. As the saying goes, said that if you survive a catastrophe, you will have a blessing. Ling Lang has avoided the 2 biggest catastrophes in his life, and there will be no more catastrophes afterwards." Although the boy did not remember the incident at the age of 4, he often listened to his parents at home saying that he fell into the creek when he was a child. Fortunately, a passing veteran saved his life. He remembered the 12-year-old thing very clearly. He graduated from elementary school that year and was hit by a car on the way home, but miraculously, apart from a broken leg, he didn't suffer any serious injuries. By this time, the boy's heart was already a little guilty. When he looked at Qian's tender white face, he unconsciously set his posture, but his mouth was still stubborn. "Maybe it's just a coincidence. Who hasn't fallen since he was a child? Fight or something?" Yes, that's it. This kind of deception has long been exposed in the book, and he won't believe it. For those who are really good at fortune-telling, it is not difficult to count the past, but the difficult is the follow-up. Because the previous events have already happened, they are fixed, but there are still many possibilities and changes in the future events. If the skill is not deep, it is possible to mislead others and oneself. As for whether others believe what he said, he doesn't care. He has said everything he can say, and others don't care about it, it's his own business. Only a liar will be afraid of others not believing him, with a lot of tongue and a lot of good words, and the final outcome will always make people lost money and avoid disaster. Sir, I'm sorry, the child is ignorant. The mother of the child pulled the boy behind her, not letting him speak. You will calculate for him, his future studies, career and marriage. Qi Yan smiled and shook his head. Madam, as I said before, Ling Lang's two greatest calamities in this life have passed, and there will be no more catastrophes for the rest of his life. Being proud and conceited when he was young is not a big problem. This child with straight eyebrows, justice in his heart, he will not be a wicked person when he grows up. Although the mother still wanted to know more, she was very happy to hear that the little master said that her child would live well for the rest of his life. Neatly took out 500 yuan bills from the wallet and brought them with both hands. Thank you, Mr. After receiving the money, Qi Yan couldn't help but smile when he saw the boy's mouth still a little unconvinced. This smile made his somewhat small face a bit more mysterious. Madam, don't be so polite, Ling Lang will definitely be a promising person in the future. The boy's expression was a little unnatural, and he seemed to feel a little impolite just now. When the mother and son were about to leave, he whispered, I'm sorry. Qi Yan chuckled and put the money in his wallet. Youth, it's normal to have doubts in your heart. The boy's face was a little red, and he lowered his head and said nothing. Madam, if it is not necessary, please do not go south this month. Qi Yan picked up his small wooden sign. Goodbye. Hey! The boy's mother nodded blankly. After Qi Yan walked far away, she came back to her senses. Did she really meet an expert this time? As a member of the Sen family's branch, she has never been short of money since she was a child. 500 yuan is really a drop in the bucket for her. When she is not busy, she likes to read articles about ghosts and strange things. Now, even though she is in middle age, this hobby has not changed. When she just passed by here, she saw this young man holding a wooden sign in his heart, and it said something ironic about fortune-telling. The ghost wanted the other party to help her son in the fortune-telling. Thinking of what the young gentleman said, she took out her mobile phone and called her husband. When he heard that he was going to travel south for 2 days, she felt a little uneasy, so she told a little lie and kept him. People in these branches like them, even if they have a position in the head office, they are just optional, so whether her husband goes on business trips has no effect on the company's arrangements. No matter how accurate he is, there is nothing wrong with being careful anyway. Brother Hang, what's the matter? Qi Yan called Wang Hang back and bought a bottle of frozen drink in the small shop next to him. Wang Hang's excited voice came from the phone. Money, money, you bull go to heaven, my brother gave you his knee. Your knees are useless if I want them, let's take them back. Qi Yan walked to the sidewalk and saw the traffic light for more than 10 seconds, so he stood there and waited. The red light quickly turned green, and he looked around before walking forward with confidence. As soon as he passed the double solid line section in the middle, he saw a black car with a left turning light rushing over from his right, and then drove away violently. Qi Yan, who was sprayed with exhaust gas, wiped his face. Although this section of the road is allowed to turn left, the speed is too unfriendly. Money, money, do you know anything other than fortune-telling? Wang Hang circled the room excitedly, for example, catching ghosts and monsters, asking gods and immortals. Qi Yan. Read less novels and read more science and education books. Qi Yan sighed helplessly, feudal superstition is not a must. You a stick actually want to teach me not to cover superstition. Wang Hang was speechless. Then what would you do? Just fortune-telling, look at Feng Shui, Qi Yan squinted and looked forward. Don't think about other things. It's okay to see feng shui, Wang Hang said enthusiastically. Tomorrow you come to my house and help me see my house's feng shui. Okay. After Qi Yan agreed to Wang Hang, he hung up the phone and prepared to go home. Qi Yan's home is on Wutong Road. The location is very good, the community is not too big, but the greening is very good, and the property management is very reliable. It is impossible to buy a house here without spending a few million. I don't know where the old man got so much money. I bought 2 big bones and a pack of kelp shreds at the supermarket, and stewed them when I got home. Turning the fire down, Qi Yan returned to the study, turned on the computer and started to scan the nonsense forum. It was quite interesting to see the serious nonsense of the host inside. After flipping through a few posts, he frowned when he saw the poster in one post saying that the newly moved community had had several suicides and sudden deaths in just 2 months. But when he refreshed again, this post has been deleted. So he didn't take this matter to heart. After all, it's hard to tell whether the news on the internet is true or false. Some people deliberately fabricate rumors in order to find a sense of existence, without considering the consequences at all. After the bone soup was boiled, Qi Yan first took a bowl and bowed in front of the master's photo, then put the bowl back on the table and drank it by himself. Anyway, his old man has become immortal, and he can't eat these mundane things, so he might as well help the master to eat it without wasting it. After dinner, Qi Yan took out the Taoist scripture left by his master and read a paragraph. There are countless branches of Taoist techniques, and what he is learning now comes from the same line of Taoism, but the truly capable Taoist magicians have always adhered to the casual attitude that you believe in love, and the master of Tao is too lazy to tell you more. Taoism is becoming more and more declining. When ordinary people think of Taoist priests, they only think of alchemy and liars. In fact, Taoism contains many useful treasures, but it is a pity that the times have moved, the speed of life has accelerated, and the competition in society is fierce. Taoism. Early the next morning, before Qi Yan had time to eat breakfast, Wang Hang knocked on the door of the room. Qian, how about breakfast? As soon as Wang Hang entered the door, he saw the breakfast that he hadn't had time to make on the table, put the breakfast he bought for Qi Yan on the table, and brought Qi Yan's porridge cheeky. I can't wait to take a sip in my hand. You're really nowhere to be skilled in making porridge. I think if you open a porridge shop, your business will be very good. Qi Yan glanced at Wang Hang disgustingly, took apart the breakfast he bought and ate. Why did you come here so early? You haven't been to my house. I'm afraid you will get lost, so I came to pick you up specially. Oh. Qi Yan was very touched. After the two had breakfast, Qi Yan changed his clothes and went downstairs with Wang Hang. Wang Hang came to pick him up and drove the car deliberately. This car looked only slightly better than the ordinary scooter and was not a big luxury brand. It can be seen that the parents of the Wang family do not intend to raise their children into dudes who do not know how to suffer. Qian, if there is something wrong with my house, just say it's okay, don't worry too much. Wang Hang parked the car in the garage and took Qi Yan out of the car. My family knows that I will bring my classmates back. They are all happy. Can't do it. Qi Yan smiled, carrying a large bag of fruits and following behind Wang Hang into the King's Gate. Facts have proved that what Wang Hang said was not a polite remark. The Wang family really welcomed his arrival, and his enthusiasm made him almost unbearable. Looking at the fruit plate that was so sharp in front of him that it was about to fall, Qi Yan hurriedly stuffed the 2 pieces that were about to fall into his mouth. However, Wang's parents didn't take the initiative to bring up the matter of watching feng shui. Perhaps in their hearts, it was just 2 young people playing around. They didn't take it seriously at all. Hang will accompany your classmates to visit our house, the Queen Mother said to Qi Yan with a gentle smile. You are also welcome, just treat this as your own home. She had heard her son mention this friend a long time ago, and never dad has no mother, but he was raised by Taoist priests in a small town. It can be seen that he has suffered a lot from snacks. Now that this young man looks lovable and gets along with his son, he naturally has a good impression of him in his heart. No way, Qi Yan's appearance is too easy to arouse the fatherhood and motherhood of the elders. Qian, follow me and take a look around. Wang Hang stood up excitedly and looked at Qi Yan expectantly. Shall we look upstairs first or downstairs first? Look from the outside first. Qi Yan smiled politely at the Queen Mother, then stood up and looked outside the door. No matter how well the furnishings in the house are done, if the position is incorrect and the front door is slanted, then everything is useless. The imperial capital is the place where dragons are gathered. It is very popular, and it is a good place from a large point of view. The community where Wang Hang lives should be seen by professionals when it is being built, so it can be regarded as a prosperous land, let alone the common sense problem of wrong orientation. Walking out of the Wang's villa gate, there are simple grass and green plants on both sides of the gate, and there is no fountain or rockery. It looks generous and comfortable, which is very much like the feeling that the Wang family gave him. The shape of the gate is broad and simple, the pattern is simple, there is no uneven personality shape, and no lion head or tiger head decoration is made to show off. Qian, is there any problem with my family? Qi Yan shook his head, open-minded, blessed home, no problem. Then let's go and look inside. Wang Hang showed Qi Yan a little bit of a doggy, and he was able to rest assured that Qi Yan could praise him inside and outside the house. But as soon as he saw the house halfway through, the king's father received a call and he had to take Wang Hang out. Seeing that the king's father looked a little serious, Qi Yan knew that this was not a trivial matter, so he took the initiative to say goodbye. Wang Hang embarrassedly sent Qi Yan to the car, and whispered to him, I heard that a big man has entered the hospital. Many people in the imperial capital have gone to show their courtesy. With their identity, I don't know if they can show their faces in front of them. The author has something to say, someone, listen to the wind, I have passed by you. On the corridor outside the VIP area of the hospital, many people stood. These men and women dressed up and down meticulously. Men who show off their wealth did not pile up all kinds of big names on themselves. Women who love beauty did not wear too much jewelry, even cosmetics. Not many people use it. A group of people stood in the corridor, and few people dared to speak loudly, as if they were afraid of waking up the people in the ward. Dad, we've been standing outside for half an hour. When did we go in? A young man with a thin face and a few strands of other colors in his hair couldn't help but ask, but was stared at by his father. After a glance, don't disturb Wei Sen's rest. In front of so many people, his dad's face was dismissed. Xiaoyang's complexion was a little ugly, but when the door of the ward suddenly opened, Xiaoyang hurriedly lowered his head and unconsciously took a step back. Coming out of the ward was a man of about 30 years old. He looked ordinary and had a gentle temperament, but no one in the room dared to look down upon him. Because this person is Senbei's most trusted assistant, most people have to give him a bit of face. I'm extremely sorry to keep everyone waiting, Liang Feng smiled apologetically to everyone, it's just the doctor who specifically ordered that Mr. Sen needs to rest. I will convey your kindness to Mr. Sen, and I hope everyone will go back to rest soon. Everything is important to the body is the most important thing, the middle-aged man standing at the front quickly said with a smile, if this is the case, we won't bother Mr. Sen to rest. After Mr. Sen is well, we will visit him again. Thank you, I'm so embarrassed today. Liang Feng bowed slightly to everyone, and several people standing in front of him avoided one after another. The smile on Liang Feng's face was even more gentle, and he turned around and asked the two bodyguards to send these people downstairs, posing a polite gesture. These people hurried over and stood outside the ward for most of the day. They didn't even see Senbei's shadow, but they didn't dare to have any opinions until they were sent out of the hospital by bodyguards. It was not until the two bodyguards turned and walked back that they slowly breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts. The entire imperial capital knew that the fifth member of the Sen family was the old son of the old man. He was of the same age as many people in the 50s and 60s in the imperial capital, but he was 2 or 3 rounds younger than these people. I don't know if it's an old man. The fifth Master Sen is not in good health, and he usually doesn't show his face in front of everyone, but no one dares to underestimate his ability. I remember that a few years ago, there was a second-generation upstart from outside the city. After drinking too much wine, he started to talk nonsense, and said a few silly words in front of many people. Since then, this one has never appeared in the imperial capital again. Everyone knows that this deep-minded, ruthless method, but he is still a particularly difficult person to get along with. Everyone doesn't have to visit him, anyway. It's okay to put on this posture, even if you can't please, at least you can't offend him. What he's, no matter how good the name is, it is not a short-lived look. The young man who had been scolded by his father just now got in the car, cursing. What kind of spectrum? People can afford it. His father hates iron for failing to become a steel track. You will suffer from a character like yours sooner or later. Xiao Yung snorted and ignored him. After the father and son drove a certain distance, the car suddenly stalled. After half a day after the driver got out of the car for inspection, the reason was not found, so he had to wait for someone from the towing company to tow the car away. It's a real dog. The young man slammed the door and got out of the car, and couldn't help cursing in internet language. Yang Tao. Hearing these words, his father finally sank his face intolerably. Who taught you to say such nasty things? This is all messy. Young people nowadays don't know what to think, even dogs don't let it go. Yang Tao looked at his father's angry face and was speechless for a while. How should he explain it? This is just a catchphrase. He really has no interest in dogs in that respect. The internet mantra is really silly. He must pay attention to it in the future, otherwise his dad may break his leg someday. Yes, yes, how do you know? It's too accurate. Then you can do the math for me. When will I find my true son? Really? Great! Yang Tao looked up curiously and looked at the source of the sound. He saw 2 girls standing in front of a young man with excited smiles on their faces, asking questions about career and romance from time to time. This is fortune-telling? Look at the fortune-telling young man, who is only 20 years old at most, with a little bit of baby fat on his cheeks, but it happens to be the kind of appearance that most easily stimulates the maternity of girls. Is this for fortune-telling or are you making girls happy? You are here waiting for the people from the trailer company to come. I'll go back to the company first. Father Yang saw his son's appearance that the oil and salt were not getting in. He hired a taxi out of sight, and drove away, even the extra. His eyes didn't bother to give him any more. This is really my father. Yang Tao glanced at the driver who was still trying to check the car, and simply squatted on the street corner boredly, observing the fortune-telling scene not far away with his slanted eyes, without any image at all. My husband is really accurate. I do have a boyfriend who is dating now. Then do you think is he suitable for my husband? The girl in question was a little reddened, and seemed to feel that she was not asking this question. I'm sorry, it can be seen that her personality is a bit shy, and her concept is very traditional. Friends around her asked a lot of questions, and she didn't speak a few times in total. Qi Yan calculated that the girl now has a rotten peach blossom, but he will not easily judge the result before he has seen the face of the person. Do you have a picture of him? So Sister Paper took out her mobile phone and showed him a photo that had been uploaded. Is there something more natural? Facing the PS technology among the 3 major beauty sorceries in Asia, Qi Yan felt that even if he was a god, he couldn't figure out the cause and effect with this kind of photos. The girl herself felt a little embarrassed. She rummaged around in her hands and finally found a picture without a beautified look. Compared with the 2 pictures, it really didn't look like a person. At the first glance when he saw the real photo of this man, Qi Yan knew that this person was fine in other aspects, but he was a sloppy character, and he had to wait until middle age at least to stabilize his heart. For this girl, he is not a good match. More importantly, judging from the faces of the two of them, they should not be related to each other, not even Dewey, but they are more like blood relatives. Chi Yan glanced at the quiet girl, and after 2 seconds of silence, he said, "If the lady doesn't believe in fate, why should she tell a fortune? If I'm not mistaken, this person should not be your boyfriend, but your relatives." Hey! The girl was stunned. She took her phone back and took a look, only to realize that she had slipped her finger a little bit and swiped the picture of her boyfriend. The picture that the master saw was that of her cousin. While she apologized repeatedly, she was secretly surprised in her heart. This is really an amazing expert. Just looking at the aspect, she can count so many, which is simply amazing. Yang Tao didn't expect that he would see such a good show. He stood by the side for more than 10 minutes, and after the two young girls left satisfied, he got up and walked to the young fortune teller. Chi Yan was about to take the sign and go home. When he saw that there was a person in front of him suddenly, he looked up and saw a well-dressed young man standing in front of him. It was just his dangling character and the rules and regulations on him. Some of the clothes don't match well. You can tell fortune-telling. Yang Tao looked at the shabby sign in Chi Yan's hand and couldn't help thinking, this expert is really different, even if he looks so soft, even the sign is so low-key. Not obvious. Sorry, the 3 trigrams of this month have been calculated. If necessary, sir, please be early next month. As Chi Yan said, he put the brand in his trouser pocket, as if he was not affected by money. Yang Tao didn't expect that the other party would answer like this. After a few seconds, he pointed to the sign and said, "Master, don't you see if it says fate? I think we have a fate. Look at my car. It just happened to be broken on the road next to you, what do you think it is because it is predestined?" Chi Yan turned his head and glanced at the luxury BMW car parked not far away, knowing that this is a rich man, Mr. is a rich man, he has a good life without fortune-telling. The master is really an expert, and I can tell at a glance that my family is rich. Yang Tao's interest in fortune-telling became even stronger. Chi Yan, is this baby's brain a little awkward? It must be a rich person who drives a luxury BMW at home. Does this still count? Seeing Chi Yan's unmoved appearance, Yang Tao believed that he must be a capable person who learned from an expert, so he didn't want to let Chi Yan go. "Master, you can calculate it for me, and the price is easy to negotiate. It's hard to find an expert, and it's nothing to spend some money." Such a stupid child, so easy to believe in people, how many times has he been deceived since he was a child? Chi Yan felt a touch of sympathy for Yang Tao in his heart. However, reincarnation is a technical job. Although this person is a bit silly and sweet, his fortune is not much worse than that of Wang Hang. When Yang Tao saw that he mentioned money, the master still didn't react at all. He felt more and more that this expert was unfathomable. Even with a soft and cute face, he could still make people worship, it was simply too powerful. Yang Tao's eyes on the eyelids became brighter and brighter, and Chi Yan raised his eyebrows. "What do you want, sir?" When asked by Chi Yan, Yang Tao got stuck in his head, because he didn't know what he wanted to calculate. Since he was a child, he has no shortage of food and clothing, loved by his family, no shortage of beautiful girls around him, and no need to worry about work and career. What does he want? Somehow, he thought of Sen Bei, who was still lying in the hospital. His father wanted to hold the thigh of the Sen family, but he didn't know if he could hold it. "Master, please do the calculations for me, can our family get the eyes of the nobles?" Although Yang Tao is stupid and sweet, but not sweet enough to be stupid, the question he asked is actually trying to find out how much Chi Yan really has. Chi Yan took out a piece of paper and a pen from his pocket, and handed it to Yang Tao. "You write a word for me to see." Yang Tao didn't dislike that the paper was a little wrinkled, so he wrote the character Bai in a few strokes. Although the posture was chic, the characters were slightly ugly. Bai has the auspicious meaning of everlasting green, it is a good word. In addition, the white word means that the sun has a head and the left word has a wood word for support. It means that what you ask for, because you have to meet a noble person, there will be a day of success. Qi Yan put the paper in Yang Tao's hand. Congratulations, you will get what you want. Really? Yang Tao looked at Qi Yan in disbelief. That was the Sun family. How many people rushed to the Sun family? Their family could really climb this Big Mac's thigh. This kind of thing is between believing and unbelief. I say you listen, believing it or not lies in your heart. Qi Yan put his hands behind his back and smiled calmly. However, Yang Tao seemed to be particularly fond of this set, even if he no longer questioned Qi Yan's words. Master, can I ask something else? Yang Tao lowered his voice. Do you see any disasters in my life? After looking at him from head to toe, Qi Yan shook his head and said, life has bitterness and sweetness as the right way. What's the point of understanding clearly? This made ordinary people think that Qi Yan was an excuse that couldn't be counted. But in Yang Tao's eyes, it was the master's seriousness and devotion to him, so he repeatedly thanked him. Thank you for your guidance, I understand. This kind of attitude made Qi Yan feel good about him. His gaze fell on his shoulder, and he brushed it on his shoulder unintentionally. If someone who is knowledgeable is present, you can see a few wisps of black mist disappear between Qi Yan's fingers. Yang Tao only felt that his somewhat acidic shoulders were inexplicably relaxed, and he didn't know anything else. Master, please see if you can leave me a contact information. Yang Tao rubbed his hands, trying to suppress the excitement in his heart. I heard that an expert like you can not only tell fortunes, but also look at feng shui. The price is good. Discuss. It is just so natural for the title to change from you to you. Realizing that his words were too vulgar and tarnished the nobleness of the master, Yang Tao immediately changed his words. The master can come, and it will definitely make the humble house flourish in 1,000 spirits. The first time I met someone who was so straightforward, Qi Yan felt that he was well adapted. Having lived with the old man these years, he hasn't learned anything else. With a thick-skinned face, a steady state of mind, and good acting skills, he can basically be regarded as a blue man and better than blue. This kind of thing is just fine. Qi Yan shook his head. I don't think the weather today is so good, I'm afraid it will rain, and my husband will go home soon. Yang Tao raised his head and glanced at the clear sky. He really didn't see any signs of rain in such a sky, but he still smiled and responded, Master, I don't know your money. It's good to follow the fate, and it's fine to follow the fate. Qi Yan smiled crookedly, a detached posture that looked at money like dung. Look, this is the real master. What a transcendent thing, how a world of vulgarity, those street scammers are scum in front of the master. But the master does not value money so much, but he can't let the master suffer. Yang Tao took out his wallet and stuffed all the cash in the bag to Qi Yan. Master, please don't dislike it, just take it all. Qi Yan drew 2 pieces out of the stack of money and put them back in Yang Tao's hands. You still have use for these money. Take them back. Although he didn't understand why the master had returned 2 pieces of money to himself, Yang Tao took the money back happily, and finally Lilian asked for a private number from the master. Master, go slowly. Yang Tao raised his neck and watched the master leave, until he could no longer see him. He reluctantly retracted his gaze. Master, the towing company called and said that there was something wrong with the tow truck in the middle of the road, and it will take more than 10 minutes to get over. The driver took off his black gloves and his expression was a little subtle. Anyone who has witnessed his own employer's son, licking his face to give money to a street scammer, his expression won't be any better. It's just that he knows this young master's temper, which is stubborn and unwilling to listen to others. As a driver, he only needs to watch him give money in silence. Anyway, rich and willful. What? Yang Tao frowned, took out his mobile phone and was about to make a call to let the buddies drive to pick him up, when he heard a sudden thunder over his head. The dark clouds instantly covered the sun, and the sky suddenly darkened. The driver and Yang Tao looked at the sky together, looking at the clouded sky, a little silly. Is it really going to rain? The two of them thought about what the fortune teller had just said, and saw shock in each other's eyes. In the end, Yang Tao got a taxi with difficulty and took a taxi back home. The total cost of the taxi was 182. He held the 18 yuan that the taxi master had given him, and stood stupid at the door of his house. This master is really a god. It's no wonder that he specially set aside 200 yuan for himself. It turns out that he needs so much. Son, it's raining heavily outside, what are you doing standing at the door? The current weather forecast is also inaccurate, saying that today is a sunny day, but it rained so heavily. Mother Yang saw that her son was holding a few crumpled sheets in her hand. Piaozi was in a daze, and curiously walked to him and looked around. What happened? Mom, Yang Tao looked at his mother excitedly. I met an expert. What the hell? Mother Yang was startled by her son's sudden excitement, and she unconsciously popped her accent from her hometown. Then Yang Tao told his mother what happened. Yang's mother felt that although it was a bit weird, it was more of a coincidence. After Father Yang came back, she raised the matter with her husband. When did that kid meet someone who is reliable since he was a kid? Father Yang had no hope of his son's IQ, so after listening to his wife's words, his attitude was a bit disapproving. And how old is that tall man? About 20 years old? Those real masters in our imperial capital, who are not in their 60s. The apprentices under their name are all 30 or 40 years old. Could it be that these people's skills are not as good as one or two? A young hairy boy about 10 years old. Furthermore, a real expert can come across casually on the street. What kind of expert can you be considered? Father Yang waved his hand. This kind of person knows that he is a liar at first glance. During dinner in the evening, Dao Tao also told me that he would invite this young master to come to our house to see Feng Shui, or I would tell him, it's all right. Mother Yang was a little hesitant, and his son rarely wanted to help the family do something. Although the master I was looking for was not reliable, the intention was still good. Tell him directly that the master is unreliable, and the family is not going to invite him. Is it a bit bad? No, we must not only invite him, but also entertain him politely and enthusiastically. Father Yang snorted. I want him to understand what kind of liar he's inviting, so that he won't be able to use this kind of unskilled man in the future. The content is right. When someone took the initiative to deceive him, his tolerance and forbearance passed. His son's behavior was simply sent to the door to be deceived by himself. It is strange that he, as an old man, can be happy in his heart. Eat a ditch and grow a wise man. Only when he is beaten by the facts can he grow his mind. Father Yang hated himself for being too doting on his children at the beginning and developing him into a mindless character. Now he is in his 20s. Nothing has been achieved. Is that okay? Mother Yang was a little bit reluctant to have her son slapped in the face like this. How bad a mother is. What are you talking about? Mother Yang raised her brows and slapped her father on Yang's arm. Is it my job to educate children? Now that the children have shortcomings, they push on me. What are you doing? Can it? Father Yang touched his sore arm and shrank his head silently, not daring to talk nonsense. When Qi Yan received Yang Tao's call, he was driving his computer to download a copy. Two close attacks in the team were idiots. They used their skills indiscriminately to cause the boss to explode, causing the entire team to fall for most of the time. He couldn't help but cursed. He left the team directly, and returned to the main city with a locator before he noticed that there were 2 missed calls on the phone. The caller was an unfamiliar number. Qi Yan glanced at it twice, but did not call it back. But soon the other party called back, and after Qi Yan picked it up, he realized that the other party was the young miscellaneous young man he met a few days ago. Okay, I will definitely come to visit at that time. After Qi Yan hung up the phone, he threw the phone on the sofa. Business has been delivered to the door. His university major is financial management. In fact, he himself is not interested in this area at all. In contrast, he likes to tell people fortune-telling and watch feng shui. Before the old man died, he had asked him to make an oath that he could not show people feng shui before he was 18 years old, let alone change feng shui. Now that he is an adult, he has inexplicably more ability to watch the breath with the naked eye, and his fate is destined to eat this bowl of rice. And he knew that in the heart of the old man, he still hoped that he could succeed. Although he didn't understand why the old man was capable, but he stayed in a small remote county. But by now, all this is no longer important. As the old man's adopted son and apprentice, he will not let the old man's inheritance be so broken. When he walked to the old man's photo, Qi Yan put a stick of incense on him and said with a smile, "Old man, you can always stay in the sky and watch it with peace of mind." The old man in the photo is wearing a blue cap, with a thin face and gentle eyes looking at him quietly. Qi Yan gave a chuckle, opened the curtain covering the window, and suddenly the moonlight poured in, making his face crystal clear. In the eyes of others, the scenery outside the window is a beautiful night scene, but in Qi Yan's eyes, here is a prosperous city with purple and gold colors. The author has something to say. Someone, just asked me to attack, what the is Lily? Master, please hear. Father Yang himself received the superior man in the sun's mouth, and Yang Tao couldn't even put his mouth in the mouth. Qi Yan glanced at Father Yang, followed up with a smile, and glanced at the rose bushes in the flower garden of the Yang family's villa. The rose bushes there are lush and there are weeds there, which is not messy, but has a special flavor. Master, do you want to have a cup of tea before? No, Qi Yan put his hands behind him, his expression was a little faint, I'll leave after reading. This Mr. Yang's attitude seemed enthusiastic, but Qi Yan could feel that this person didn't even look at him from the bottom of his heart. He doesn't need to accompany others in the show, it's more refreshing to speak directly if he has something to say. Unexpectedly, this counterfeit master was so upright. Father Yang was stunned. He turned his head to see that his son seemed to want to speak. He glared at him, then turned to face Qi Yan and said with a smile, "How embarrassed, you come to the humble house. Come on, how can you not even drink a glass of water? Mr. Yang, you don't have to be polite. People of my generation don't pay attention to these courtesy." Qi Yan's attitude is still very peaceful. He pointed to the fountain next to the gate. It has the effect of gathering water for wealth, but it will block the fortune. Although it will not have a big impact on major events, it is prone to twists and turns when doing things, which affects efficiency. Father Yang glanced at the fountain he had paid a lot of money to repair, and couldn't help but recall his fortunes after moving into this new villa in the past 2 years. It seemed that it was really more troublesome than before. No, this must be a liar's psychological suggestion, he must be steady. Compared with Wang Hangjia, the gate of the Yang family is much more fancy. The vermilion gilded gate gives people a strong visual impact. There are also birds on the door that raise their heads and roar, is it a peacock or a phoenix? Mr. Yang's family luck is good, but you must know the truth from the mouth. If you meet ordinary people, it's okay, if you meet someone whose fortune is better than yours, good luck will only change bad luck. Qi Yan turned his head and looked at it. Yang Tao, standing next to Father Yang, said, "If you accumulate virtue under your mouth, you will have a good future. This door will be changed with your mouth." After Qi Yan pointed out 2 bad places, Mr. Yang's smile couldn't be stretched, but strangely, deep in his heart, he could no longer firm up his suspicion just now. Yang Tao is a child who can't speak, he is very clear in his heart when he is a father here. Because of his son's mouth, people outside have always been unsatisfied with him, making him as a dad faceless everywhere, and only he can experience the central soreness. Thinking of this, he glared at his son fiercely, but he didn't know that his son looked at the baby-faced master in front of him with admiration, and his breath became even more blocked. Entering the gate, the decoration style of the Yang family is even more difficult to describe. Obviously, the professional feng shui has never been asked to see it. The airflow is messy and there is no transportation. When Father Yang saw Qi Yan walked into the gate, he stood still, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart, always feeling that this one was going to pick something wrong again. However, after visiting the entire living room, Qi Yan didn't say anything. He just glanced at the famous paintings hanging on their walls. Father Yang looked a little embarrassed. He knew in his heart that most of these famous paintings were fakes to show off face. There were only one or two genuine ones, and they were all not well-known works. "Master, let's go upstairs and take a look." Father Yang felt inexplicably that he had some elementary school students who were being checked by the teacher, although he didn't even understand why he had such an illusion. The staircase is a spiral staircase imitating the European style. The overall effect is magnificent, the hotel style often used in the filming of rich dramas. There was also a huge floor-to-ceiling blue vase at the corner, almost the same height as his height of nearly 1.8 meters. "Master, I bought this at an auction house, for 450,000 yuan, what do you think?" Father Yang felt that he finally had something that he could grasp. Qi Yan looked at him and then at the vase. He still smiled without saying a word. He just nodded slightly, but his movements were so small that Father Yang thought it was his own illusion. Father Yang took him to the master bedroom. When he opened the door, he drove to the antique-style swinging clock in the corner of the wall, with the mahogany casing and intricate patterns carved on it. On the opposite side of the big clock, there is a European-style dressing table, and a few unlocked jewelry storage boxes are placed on the table. It can be seen that the hostess should have a lot of jewelry, and her attitude towards jewelry is very casual. However, judging from the aura in this room, the hostess should be someone who has accumulated good virtues. Then Father Yang showed him to other rooms, and Qi Yan didn't say a few words from beginning to end. After the three returned to the living room, Qi Yan sat down on the luxurious sofa and said directly, "Mr. Yang doesn't seem to believe in feng shui." Father Yang laughed and said, "Haha, Master, you are joking. If you don't believe me, why would I make a special trip to invite you to the humble house? If you believe in feng shui, why would you put the swinging clock next to the bed and put the vanity mirror at the head of the bed?" Qi Yan smiled softly. "How is Mr. Yang's body these days?" The smile on Father Yang's face became stiff. In the past 2 years, he has not been seriously ill, but he often has headaches and fevers, sleeps at night and often has nightmares. This period of time is even more serious. Not only can he sleep poorly, but the phenomenon of hair loss is also becoming more and more obvious. He just thought that the work pressure case was too great, and he didn't think about other aspects at all. "Master, what do you mean is that my family's feng shui is wrong? Why do you think that?" Qi Yan raised his eyebrows. "I just think your complexion doesn't look good and you need to rest." Father Yang. Master, Yang Tao finally couldn't help it, and couldn't wait to start, "Then tell us what is wrong with our feng shui. Do you want to hear the truth or the lie?" "Truth, just tell it, we will definitely change it, we will definitely change it." Mr. Yang and Mrs. Zun's relationship should be very good. Mrs. Zun has a firm personality and is quick to talk. She also helps Mr. Yang a lot in work, right? Qi Yan saw Mr. Yang nodding his head and continued, "Ms. Zun is like it is the rose bush in your yard. It is lush but free. I suggest Mr. Yang not to touch the rose bush. You only need to trim it and don't move it too much. As for the fountain in front of the door, it is best to fill it. Don't be obstructed by anything outside the gate, so that it is both ventilated and smooth. As for the house..." Qi Yan also turned his head and looked around. Although the decoration style of this villa is difficult to describe and the airflow is a bit messy, the sitting direction is still very good, and the floor plan is also very reasonable. The other small decorations are messy, but generally speaking, it doesn't have much influence on fortune. Many people talk about the change of feng shui. It seems that putting more flower pots and throwing a pair of shoes can make people lucky or bad. In fact, this is very wrong. For most ordinary people, the home decoration style must first be liked by yourself, which is the first condition of feng shui. For people, a home is a clean place of belonging. If even the most basic decoration style is not what you want, can you not feel bad about staying in the house? If you are in a bad mood, your fortune will naturally not get better. For example, the decoration style of the Yang family is very spicy to him, but looking at the attitude of the Yang family, it seems that he is quite proud of his own furnishings, which shows that he is very satisfied with his home and can find pleasure from it. If he insists on decorating the other party in other styles, maybe the family still feels uncomfortable. So except for the particularly taboo furnishings, other things are just as good as you want, too deliberate but not beautiful. The villa's layout is very good, the windows are bright and magnificent, and there are not too many things that affect your fortune. Qi Yan pointed to the corner of the stairs. The vase is porcelain. The porcelain is fragile, and it's too tall. It is not suitable to put it in the aisle, and it is not good for fortune. Mr. Yang can put it in the corner of the living room, so it is easy to watch and not easy to break. As for the place where the vases were originally placed, potted plants such as kumquats or evergreen plants can be placed. Qi Yan thought for a while, and added, in addition, the clock should not be placed on the head of the bed, and the mirror should not be aligned with the head of the bed. There is nothing wrong with it. After hearing this, Mr. Yang's 3-point suspicion towards Qi Yan turned into 7-point trust. The other party did not ask him to buy any magical tools, nor did he use gimmicks, but it was this attitude that made him believe the other party's words. Also, Qi Yan glanced at Mr. Yang with some complicated eyes. The respected wife has a very good life and a kind-hearted person. Mr. Yang must respect and love her, and he will definitely have a deep blessing in his later years. Father Yang's heart shuddered and he turned his eyes away slightly, not daring to look at Qi Yan. I must keep your words in mind. Didn't expect the master to even figure this out? Expert, it turns out to be an expert. He met a young woman last month, and her mind was a little buoyant. If he hadn't been thinking about the relationship with his wife for many years, he would have made a mistake long ago. Now that I heard what the master said, there was a fever on his face. But he was also thankful that the master had mentioned to him, otherwise he would definitely not be able to bear the consequences when he made a mistake, and he would regret it even more. By now, he was convinced of Qi Yan's abilities, and couldn't help but be a little worried. The master was so indifferent to him. Did he see his attitude clearly when he entered the door? Master, there are no eyes, no offense, please don't mind. Father Yang glared at Yang Tao. Why don't you pour water for the master? Why are you sitting here? The yelled Yang Tao looked dumbfounded, sitting here with his gun lying down. What did he do wrong? No need. Qi Yan stood up from the sofa. Mr. Yang is busy with personnel, so I won't bother. Master, Master! How dare Father Yang let Qi Yan leave like this? You see it's too early. I ordered a table of wine and food at a nearby hotel. Please enjoy your face and have a light meal. Mr. Yang, you don't have to be polite, I don't pay attention to these things, let's say goodbye. Qi Yan was unmoved and insisted on leaving. Father Yang dissuaded him several times, but seeing that he couldn't keep it, he had to forcibly give Qi Yan a check and put him in the car with a smile. Master, go slowly, and when you are free, go and harass again. Father Yang shook his hand, knowing that the shadow of the car was out of sight, then dropped his hand. Dad! Don't talk to me now, didn't the master tell me, your mouth needs to be changed? Father Yang hurriedly took out his mobile phone and began to find workers to fill the fountain at the door and change the gate. Master's words, you can't help but listen. As for Master Qi, who was regarded as an expert by Yang's father, he was looking at the 100,000 yuan on the check and smiling with satisfaction. The author has something to say. Qi Yan, my alias is Xiaoqianqian. Lao Yang has had some good luck in the past few days, and the spring is all over his face, Lao Li asked his friends curiously and happily after seeing his friends. What nonsense, what beauty is as beautiful as your sister-in-law, Yang Gang said with a straight face, waved his hand, I dare not touch those flowers and grass. Old Li thought that Yang Gang was joking, but when he took a closer look at his expression, he turned out to be very serious. He seemed to think from the bottom of his heart that his wife was the best, and other women would not take a second look. After understanding Yang Gang's attitude, Lao Li stopped mentioning the beauty. I heard that you have talked about several big deals in the past few days. It seems that you have been lucky recently. Where, I was talking about it before, and it was just a few days before we talked. Yang Gang thought of the master, and his heart was filled with infinite gratitude. He had just filled the fountain for less than an hour, and there was business. Successfully talked about it, it is simply amazing. Then the southern city suffers hail disaster this time, you have to donate more. Old Li was a little bit jealous, and couldn't help but lift Yang Gang up here. I didn't know that Yang Gang didn't care, he nodded and said, it should be. Seeing Yang Gang's glorious appearance in the spring breeze, Old Li was speechless and felt like a punch to the cotton. In recent years, severe natural disasters have occurred in the south, hail and floods have caused many people to suffer. The businessmen in the imperial capital, whether they really sympathized with the victims or for the sake of saving face, gathered together and held a donation ceremony to donate money to the people in the disaster area. Regardless of their intentions, the victims really benefited, so people from all walks of life are happy to see this kind of scene. After the donation ceremony, Yang Gang was chatting with a few friends when he suddenly heard a voice. Fortunately, I listened to my wife's words and didn't go to the south on a business trip. Otherwise, I would suffer this time. The fortune-telling expert is really a god. Hearing the word superior, Yang Gang couldn't help turning his head to look at the person who was speaking. It turned out to be a member of the Sen family branch. Although this person was not very capable, he was honest in his duties, so he was able to mix in the Sen family consortium head office. For a position that is not big or small, it is considered to be a good place among them. Because no matter what, everyone should be kind to him for this surname. I don't know if it's because he trusts the expert too much, or his brain is hot. He just thinks that the expert mentioned by Sen Chun and his mouth may be the expert who has shown him Feng Shui. Only such a master can know the secrets of heaven, cut off the luck of people, and be a person who is rich and hard to find. Qi Yan, who caught the attention of some wealthy people, was hiding in the house blowing air conditioning, eating ice cream, and playing games. Because the imperial capital has been so hot recently, it was so hot that he didn't even have the courage to step out of the gate. Wang Hang called him several times and asked him to go out for dinner. He was very touched by the sultry and hot weather outside, but he still refused. So when the door of his house was knocked, he subconsciously felt that it was wrong. At this time, he didn't call outside, and there was no express delivery. Who would knock on his door? The person who knocked on the door seemed very polite. After knocking 3 times, he waited for a while and knocked twice, and then kept on waiting. Qi Yan turned off the game, swept the on the table into the trash can, walked to the door and looked out, and opened the door of the living room. Is it Master Qi? A middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes looked at Qi Yan with a smile on his face. Master Qi, I am sorry to disturb you. Du Dong had long ago inquired that although this Master Qi was young, his methods were very mysterious. He was very powerful in fortune-telling and Feng Shui. Therefore, seeing Qi Yan walking out in a white t-shirt and jeans, he did not dare to slack off, and instead bowed to Qi Yan very religiously. Qi Yan didn't avoid him and bowed, just glanced at the two young men behind him, nodded gently, "The distinguished guest is here, please come in." "Thank you, master." Du Dong's chubby face was filled with bean-sized beads. He bowed slightly and walked into the door, then carefully took off the shoes on his feet for fear of soiling the floor. Seeing this, the two young men behind him had no choice but to learn the actions of the boss, taking off their shoes and entering the house barefoot. Qi Yan looked back and saw the three elders standing barefoot at the door. "The distinguished guests don't need to be like this. It should be, it should be." Du Dong took out a handkerchief and wiped his face, and said bitterly, "If you bother the master, please forgive me, but Du is really desperate to make such a rude act. I'm so sorry for the matter." Qi Yan smiled indifferently, and sat down beside his mahogany coffee table, then poured 4 cups of tea, and raised his hands to invite the three of them to sit down. "It's fate that the distinguished guests can find this. Sit down and drink a cup of tea first." Du Dong saw that the master's face was tender, at most he was in his early 20s, but his words and deeds were full of mystery and unpredictability. He even felt that the young master had true abilities, so his attitude became even more pious. "Thank you for the hospitality, master." Tea is a very common bamboo leaf green, but for some reason, Du Dong feels that the bamboo leaf green here is more flavorful and more memorable than elsewhere. "Master, my surname is Du in the next. Fortunately, my ancestors have blessed me in these years. I have a little bit of a boon. If the master doesn't dislike it, I will call Lao Du in the next." Du Dong took the initiative to introduce himself, and his small eyes were squeezed in. Together, it looks a bit ridiculous as well as rich. Qi Yan put down his teacup and observed Mr. Du's face. It was a hard life in his childhood, but his career began to fluctuate after his middle age, and he would not stabilize until he was 50 years old. His luck is white with a reddish color, which is not a good life, but it is better than most ordinary people. The most important thing is that Qi Yan found that his eyebrows were very well shaped, and he was a man of goodwill and kindness. Qi Yan is more capricious, and he likes to rely on his eyes and mood if he doesn't help. He is in a normal mood today, but although this Du Dong looks ugly and doesn't have a figure to speak of, he is willing to listen to the other party's request. "Mr. Du came to Humble House today, why?" Mr. Du bitterly told his own experience, probably because his mother was ill, his wife was ill, his daughter was ill, and even the company was not going well. He has lost 20 jins of worry this month. Taking a look at Du Dong's thin body, Qi Yan took a sip of tea. "So Mr. Du wants me to take a look at your feng shui. Some fortune tellers said that I was the lone star of the evil spirits, so I defeated my father and my mother, my wife and my son." Du Dong held the teacup and drank the tea inside. "Is it so bad?" Mr. Du joked. Qi Yan smiled and shook his head. "If you have such a fate, how can you have a chance to marry a wife and have children? Unless you are a Zijin dragon fate like Emperor Kangxi, otherwise Mrs. Zun will never get married. At that time, I will be separated from you forever. Then, according to what you said, I am not the fate of the gods alone." Du Dong's small eyes burst with hope, and he looked at Qi Yan with scorching eyes, as if as long as Qi Yan said no, his family's dooms can all dissipate. The lone star of Tianjia is so easy to encounter. Qi Yan flicked his index finger across the red clay teacup, and wiped off a drop of tea on it. "Mr. Du is not only the lone star of Tianjia, it's still a good fate for mother, kindness and filial piety. I think the fortune teller you met before may accidentally make a mistake when calculating." This is a tactful statement, but Du Dong and his two assistants understand that the fortune teller before him is probably a liar. "Since I am not the destiny of the lone star of the evil gods, why are all the people in my family having problems, but I have nothing to do?" Du Dong was a little discouraged. Although Qi Yan denied the idea of the lone star of the evil gods, he was subconscious. "Here, I still feel that I caused the family member to get sick and be hospitalized, so I was so uneasy. This is a man who cares about his family very much, so he is concerned about his family both inside and out, but the troubles in his company are rarely mentioned. Mr. Du's company has a problem, isn't it your fault? Chi Yan mentioned the teapot and refilled Du Dong with tea. You care about your family too much, but ignore yourself. The bitterness in Du Dong's smile was more intense, and he held the teacup with both hands and raised it above his head. Master, please help me. Chi Yan turned his head and looked out the window, with a solemn expression. After 7 o'clock tonight, I will accompany you on a walk. After 7 o'clock. Du Dong was stunned, looking at the bright sunshine outside the window. Is there any particularity in time? Then master, why don't we go out for dinner now? Du Dong said politely, I've asked about it. There is a very good seafood shop nearby. If the master doesn't dislike it, we can go there for a taste. It's not easy to park near that store. It's not far anyway, why don't we walk over there? No, wait for it to rain, we'll still order takeaway. Chi Yan picked up the phone and ordered a meal for 4, then said to the dumbfounded Du Dong, I prefer to eat at home. Du Dong didn't care whether Chi Yan was right or not, he just nodded vigorously anyway. This was not the peak time for dinner, so the takeaway came quickly. Du Dong rushed to pay the bill, and then put the express delivery box on the table. Halfway through the meal, it started to rain outside, and the sound of clattering came into the ears of Du Dong and others, and their faces showed admiration. Chi Yan put his mobile phone in front of the three of them. An hour ago, the weather forecast station issued a yellow rainstorm warning. Du Dong suddenly felt emotional that a master is a master, he speaks sincerely, and he doesn't try to be mystery. At first glance, he is a person with a gap in his chest. Their family was saved this time. The rain stopped at about 7:30 in the evening. Chi Yan put on his shoes and said to the three people sitting on the stools properly, let's go now. Good, good. Du Dong hurriedly followed. He didn't even wear his shoes, so he hurriedly dragged the heel of his shoes, followed up, and the assistant who followed him carefully closed the door for Chi Yan. Master, don't you bring any tools? Du Dong glanced at Chi Yan Kong's hands, I still need to buy something. Just ask, we will buy it. What to buy? Chi Yan pressed the elevator button and turned to Du Dong. We are not filming TV dramas, and we don't have to kill demons, so we don't need things like peachwood swords and compasses. Du Dong looked in admiration, an expert is an expert, and he does things so calmly. As a self-made businessman, Du Dong is quite a local tyrant in his car hobby. Chi Yan glanced at the brand and model of the car. The price was about 3 or 4 million yuan, which seemed to be very valuable. Master, please. The assistant opened the door for Chi Yan. After Chi Yan got in, he smelled a faint mint smell in the car, looked around, and found several mint-scented sachets in the car. My daughter put these. She said that it is hot in summer and people tend to get sleepy. Putting some mint in it will make it difficult for the driver to get lost while driving. Du Dong saw Chi Yan's eyes fall on the mint sachet, and smiled. With pride, this child has been filial since he was a child, has good grades, and is well behaved. But thinking of his daughter lying in the hospital, Du Dong's voice was a little choked, and he couldn't continue. Seeing him like this, Chi Yan looked slightly calm, and persuaded, Mr. Du don't have to worry, your daughter will definitely be fine. Master Xie said. Du Dong Chao Chi Yan gave a smile that was uglier than crying, as long as they are okay, I am willing to do anything. Hearing this, Chi Yan didn't say anything more, just looked down at his palm in a daze. His palm prints are very clear and there are no messy lines. The old man once said that his palm prints are precious to life, and he did not see where he was. Healers do not heal themselves, and those who know fortune-telling will not be able to calculate their own destiny. However, Chi Yan didn't care about his future destiny at all. People live in the world and only the unknown has expectations. If there are no expectations, what is the difference between life and a pool of stagnant water? Du Dong's house is a two-story villa. The grass and flowers in the villa are very messy, and it seems that they have not been taken care of for a while. Entering the house, it gives people a sense of coldness that is not popular, and the curtains are also tightly drawn, which makes people feel very uncomfortable. Let the master laugh, because I have been staying in the company and the hospital recently, and all the homes have not been taken care of. Du Dong smiled awkwardly, pressing the switch in the corner, and the whole room was brightly lit. In terms of decoration style, the Du's family is more tasteful than the Yang's, but Qi Yan never expected that he would see a Tang Sankei ornament at the Yang's price. Tang Sankei is a famous variety among the cultural relics, but this kind of thing is really not suitable to be placed at home, let alone in the living room. In ancient times, this thing belonged to the category of sacrificial objects. Only the dead can use it. There is absolutely no reason for living people to use it. Mr. Du is a collector. Qi Yan pointed to Tang Sankei and a piece of jade with flaws next to it, both of which exuded a cold black air. Well, I'm a rough person, I don't have much research on these things, Du Dong said, shaking his head. This was given by two friends when my mother passed her birthday a few months ago. Oh, Qi Yan thoughtfully, a friend in the business world. Yes, Du Dong nodded. They are all partners. I heard that these two things are very expensive. If I don't show them, I can't be worthy of my friends. Then your two friends are very generous. Qi Yan lowered his eyelids, his tone of voice was a little faint, even the genuine product is willing to give it to you. Du Dong noticed something wrong with this. Master, these two things, are there problems? Qi Yan didn't directly say that there was a problem, but just said, I think these two things are exquisitely crafted, and they are both genuine and have research value. If Mr. Du is willing, he can donate it to the museum, which is considered a piece of merit. Du Dong was stunned for a moment, and then fully agreed, yes, it should be handed over the cultural relics to the country. Mr. Du is a generous person. Qi Yan smiled and turned and walked upstairs. The layout upstairs is good, and there is no major problem with the furnishings, but he always feels that this place seems to have a sullen aura. He looked back at Du Dong who was following him. Mr. Du, you go and stand on the stairs. Du Dong obediently retreated to the corner of the stairs and stood there, and then he saw Master Qi right hand making a strange posture. He was dazed to see that a few wisps of white mist appeared in the opponent's hand, but it seemed that he was dazzled. Qi Yan felt in the gap between the handrails of the stairs, and took out a yellow paper folded into a triangle from the inside. He could still smell the blood and corpse oil on it. Master, what is this? Du Dong didn't expect that there would be these things in his own home. He shrank his chubby neck and subconsciously sensed anxiety. It's not a good thing. Qi Yan squeezed it with his hand, and the yellow paper seemed to have been burned by fire, turning into fine pieces of paper. These shredded paper lay in Qi Yan's hands, and a piece of it fell on the ground. Go and pour me a bowl of vinegar. Hearing this, Du Dong quickly turned his head and ran downstairs to the kitchen. His vigorous posture was nothing like that of a fat man. In less than 2 minutes, he poured a bowl of vinegar and brought it to Qi Yan. Qi Yan glanced at him. Stay steady, don't move. After saying that, he threw the paper in his palm into the vinegar bowl and put the paper in. In the vinegar, it was like a pan under water, making a sneer, and Du Dong almost spit it out. He reluctantly suppressed the desire to vomit and looked at the master, and found that the master had stood a few steps away from him, and seemed to have expected that the smell of this thing would not be too good. But such a big chemical reaction will happen when paper is thrown into vinegar? This seems a bit unscientific, hey? It's just that although the master has a gentle and easygoing face, he didn't mean to help him at all. He just glanced coldly at the vinegar that smelled in his hand. Pour it on the west side of your corner. And then bow to it 3 times, that's it. Du Dong still did it obediently, probably because he was frightened by the master's hand. When he bowed, he was extremely pious, except that he didn't directly kneel down. Qi Yan stood at the gate, quietly watching him finish all this before saying, "Your home has a good feng shui, there is no problem. It is the 2 cultural relics, donate them as soon as possible. As for the so-called friends behind the calculations, that's not what feng shui Mr. He wants to take care of." Du Dong repeatedly agreed to drive Qi Yan downstairs himself before returning to his home. Then he contacted the person in charge of the Cultural Relics Museum overnight. Early the next morning, after the museum staff went to work, he couldn't wait to donate the 2 items in his hand, and returned to the car with a lot of souvenirs from the museum. Not long after he got home, he received a call from the hospital, saying that his wife's condition had improved and that he had contacted the doctor his mother had contacted, and finally had time to perform the operation. After hanging up the phone, Du Dong wiped his eyes and hurried to the hospital. 2 days later, Qi Yan received a text message sent to him by the bank, and there was an extra million in his account. He was not surprised at all. The one named Du Dong could find out where he lives, so he could definitely find out his bank account. The other party gave him such a large sum of money at this time, it seems that his family's condition has eased. I just like this kind of upright person. Qi Yan opened a credible charity organization and transferred 100,000 yuan to it. Accumulate blessings, cherish blessings. I'm telling you that the patient on bed 24 is awake. Real. Isn't it possible that you may become a vegetative person if you are in a coma for unknown reasons? I don't know what's going on. When I went to change the patient's medicine, I seemed to hear her husband say, I met some superiors, who framed me, etc. Don't go out and talk. Don't worry, definitely not. But is there really any so-called expert? Okay, you're still a nurse, can you believe these things? When Liang Feng passed by the nurses' station in the evening, he heard the nurses talking, but when these nurses saw him coming, they closed their mouths one after another and did not dare to speak any more. They knew Liang Feng and knew that he was an assistant to a big figure in the VIP ward, so the attitude was extraordinarily careful. Liang Feng smiled at them, did not say anything else, turned and walked in the other direction. The VIP ward is in the quietest place on this floor, so the more you go in, the quieter it will be. He knocked on the door of the room, and after hearing voices from inside, he opened the door and raised the document in his hand. Sen, this is a public report for the past 2 days. The man sitting on the hospital bed turned his head and glanced at him, his pale face was sickly red. Come here. After saying these 3 words, he began to cough violently. Sen, the doctor said, you need to rest. Liang Feng put the file in the man's hand, the expression on his face was a bit disapproving. The man ignored him. After flipping through the documents, he signed one of the documents and put the other aside. This body is just like this. What's the difference between being quiet or not? The man's lips are pale, but this face is still beautiful and breathtaking. Liang Feng knew that what he said was useless, so he could only fall silent in the end. He looked out the dark window and couldn't help thinking that he was probably really jealous of the talent, so God gave President Sen the looks, the distinguished housework, and the outstanding ability that countless people are obsessed with, but he didn't give him a healthy body. Body of. There is no perfection in life. Old man, I gave you your favorite duck tongue offering. You have to watch it when you are in the sky. Don't let me go bad luck. Qi Yan put a plate of braised duck tongue in front of the master's photo. After praying for 3 times with the photo, he turned his head and looked at the bright white sun outside. He faintly felt that something related to him was about to happen. He calculated it for himself, and only figured out that the matter was not fierce, and what else I can't figure it out. Fortunately, since he was a child, he has developed a procrastination character that is naturally straight from the boat to the bridge. Seeing that he can't figure out the result, he just throws the matter behind his head and goes out to buy groceries. There is a big farmer's market near the community where he lives. Every time he goes to the market to buy vegetables, he will have more weight than others. When he buys bundles of small green vegetables, the vegetable seller will also give him 2 green onions. With a pleasing face, he became familiar in the market. But when he went to the market today, he found strands of black gas lingering in the market. Some people were infected with the black gas, and some people were also stained with a trace of the black gas. He frowned and looked around the market, trying to find the source. It's a pity that there are too many people buying vegetables in the morning. Even if he stands on tiptoe, he can't look to the side at a glance. Xiao Yan, shopping for vegetables. The stall owner next to him was an aunt in her 50s. After seeing Qi Yan, she waved to him cheerfully, "I know you like to eat tomatoes. This is what I bought from the countryside. Tomato, I left you a good one specially. If you don't come again, I'm going to sell it." "Thank you, Auntie." Qi Yan looked at the other party taking out a plastic bag from under the table with a few big, red and fresh tomatoes in it. He smiled and bent his eyes, and took out the money from the bag to pay the bill. At this moment, he saw the black air drifting to the stall owner, and then wrapped around her wrist. Qi Yan's expression changed. Seeing that the stall owner still didn't know anything about it, he was talking to him about how tomatoes taste better and more nutritious. He smiled and handed the money to the other party. He took a plastic bag and found that there were 2 inside. Green onions, and 2 cloves of garlic. Thanks to the stall owner, he continued to walk to the most dark place, and walked to the innermost corner, where the stalls used to park their trucks, and the source was here. Seeing the patterns in the corners that looked like children's scribbles, his expression changed slightly. It turned out to be this kind of side-by-side thing. Hundreds of years ago, because of their bad luck, some people asked some wise sorcerers to pose for good luck. When ordinary warlocks do this kind of thing, they will choose it in the middle of the night, because this will not attract the attention of others, and it will not cause innocent people to charge off. You must know that ordinary people charge off. Who lives forever? Later, because this kind of technique violated the laws of nature and caused great harm to the person performing the technique, gradually there were not many people who knew this technique. Even Qi Yan had only seen this kind of luck charm from the old man. Never learned this method. Because the old man said that to seek luck for oneself by hurting others is all evil, and it is difficult for such a warlock to end well in the end. Qi Yan never imagined that he would actually see this kind of thing in densely crowded places, because the denser the crowd, the easier it is for accidents. If the luck of the people in this place is borrowed, there may be accidents and even casualties. Generally, warlocks with a little human nature will not do such things. More coincidentally, several red electric tricycles parked in this place just formed a rush array, which accelerated the loss of luck in this place. When he came here to buy food 3 days ago, he hadn't noticed anything wrong here, indicating that this rushing formation was only made in the past 3 days. Putting his hand on a red tricycle closest to him and pushing it, the tricycle did not move as expected. The old man watching the car in the corner stared at Qi Yan with scorching eyes, as if he was watching a thief stealing a tricycle. This kind of look made Qi Yan feel more pressure. He coughed twice, pulled his wrists, and tapped 3 times on the 3 wheels. Then, holding his breath, he pulled the front of the tricycle and pushed it aside. The tricycle made a creaking sound. Moved tens of centimeters abruptly. Watching Uncle Che stared at this scene not far away dumbfounded, carrying 3 wheels with one hand. Qi Yan turned to look at Uncle Che and smiled, then turned and left the place. After the matter was gone, he hid his merit and fame deeply, leaving the shocked old man in a daze. "Master!" The 2 young men heard the sound of something breaking in the room and opened the door anxiously. They saw the master lying on the ground with the bell in his hand falling to the ground and falling in half. "Master, what happened?" The man lying on the ground spit out a large mouthful of blood, clutching his chest, and barely had the strength to speak. He looked at the bell that had been broken in half, and felt pain and hatred, someone moved my formation. The two apprentices were horrified. Master said long ago that this technique of borrowing luck has almost disappeared. They deliberately chose the farmers' market to set up their positions, because there are so many people there, and cars parked in disorder are the norm. Even if they do something with this, no one will see anything. But there is such a coincidental thing in the world. Their borrowing movement was completed yesterday, and only one night later, they were broken into the formation and ruined the aura. Even Master suffered such a serious backlash. The place in the imperial capital is really a crouching tiger, hidden dragon, and there are many experts. The Master wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and after narrowing his slender eyes, he became a little bit more treacherous and vicious. We should be more careful when we act in the future. Master, I will help you to rest first. The second apprentice is a very beautiful woman. She helped the old man on the ground to lie down on the bed and looked very considerate. The big brother snorted when he saw this. This woman used to pretend to come to please Master. Qi Yan broke the formation, and when he came out to see the people in the market, the blackness on their bodies had faded a lot, and there were signs that they were getting lighter, so he assuredly bought the vegetables he needed and prepared to go home. Before stepping out of the integrated market, he heard someone arguing. With the escalation of speech, there seemed to be signs of a fight between the two sides. He looked at the two people who were arguing. Both of them were surrounded by a layer of black energy, and their emotions were very unstable. I don't know what one of them said, the other was so angry that he lost his mind, and even lifted the child standing behind the other person high, trying to throw it away. The child who was lifted up didn't realize what was going on, but felt that he was lightened all over and was thrown out. What? Hearing screams from all around, the child raised his head dumbfounded, only to find that he was lying in the arms of an older brother, who was looking at him with a smile. Little handsome guy, are you okay? The child sniffed and closed his squeezed mouth without crying. Qi Yan let go of the child, rubbed his sore shoulder, bent over to look at the meat and vegetables he had thrown on the ground, only to find that the tomatoes were rolling everywhere, and the plastic bag containing the tomatoes did not know where they fell. Only then did the surrounding people react. The child's parents kept thanking Qi Yan and said that they would send him to the hospital to have his shoulder checked. There is also a chicken leg stuffed inside. There were also a few strong men who held down the child-throwing man, and waited for the police to arrive. Although the scene was messy and noisy, it could be seen that most people had a kindness. Qi Yan was carrying a plastic strap with a chicken leg, and was questioned with concern by several aunts. He even assured him that there was nothing wrong with him, and everyone was relieved. The child's father took out the wallet from his trouser pocket and took out all the money inside. He even pulled out the mezzanine slips and stuffed his brain into Qi Yan's hands. "Brother, thank you so much this time, thank you so much." The child's father, still trembling in his voice, tightly holding Qi Yan's hand and bowing to him, only to kneel down to Qi Yan. The child's mother was holding the child in her arms and her eyes were red. Only the child looked at his parents blankly, not knowing what kind of accident he had experienced. "I'm so easy, it's fine." Qi Yan smiled at the child and returned the money in his hand to the couple, but the couple decided not to. Qi Yan had no choice but to stuff the money into the pocket of the child's coat. The child hugged his mother's neck, blushing, and whispered thank you to Qi Yan. Qi Yan chuckled, and reached out and touched the top of his head. "Good boy, I will be safe from now on." After doing this, Qi Yan turned and rushed away from the crowd while the child's parents were not paying attention, and ran away without looking back. You can't run without running, because the uncles and aunts are so enthusiastic that he can't accept it. "Mr. Sen, this is your nutritious meal today." The nurse brought the dinner in. Seeing him nodded slightly, she put the tray on the bed table and exited the ward gently. Senbei he glanced at the unappetizing food on the table, picked up the remote control next to him, and turned on the TV hanging on the wall. Boring TV series, not much new entertainment news, and messy commercials. Senbei kept changing channels, and finally stopped at a local channel. This station will broadcast the evening news on time at 8:30 every evening. The content is that the owner lost the chicken, the West lost a bowl, who bought the fake, who picked up the money and other small news, but it is very popular among the local people. The ratings are pretty good. So when Senbei was drinking the porridge, what he saw on the TV was the surveillance video of the young guy astutely saving the young children. The chaotic crowd, the young man wearing a white t-shirt rushing to catch the child, became particularly conspicuous. The video of just a few tens of seconds soon ended, followed by the reporter interviewing the vegetable market vendor and the parents of the child. Senbei listened to the host with a slightly sharp and excited voice, dragging a long tone to describe the appearance of a good-hearted person who was brave and brave. The more he listened, the more he felt that the porridge in the bowl was difficult to swallow. He looked up and watched the TV. The boy was rescued. S parents are facing the camera thanking the kind people. A piece of news was broadcast for 5 or 6 minutes, but there were no clear photos of well-wishers, let alone the first name or last name. In the end, this news topic ended with the host's sentence, "A good man lives in peace." Senbei put down and only ate on at heard of the porridge. He shrank into the bed and didn't want to move anymore. When Liang Feng came, he saw that there was not much food on the table and helped Senbei move the bed table aside. "Sen, do you have something like this?" "No appetite." Seeing him empty-handed, Senbei picked up the remote control and turned off the TV. "It's so late, what are you doing here?" "I just heard the news that the old man seems to be going to rebuild the ancestral house. Recently, he is looking for a good feng shui." Liang Feng saw that Senbei still didn't have much expression on his face, and added, "It is said that someone told the old man that the ancestral house is new. After being in disrepair for a long time, feng shui may have changed, which may harm the lifespan of the offspring, and the old man made the decision to do this." As we all know, among the 5 brothers of the Sen family, only Senbei was sick and weak since childhood. The father's tossing was probably for him. The youngest son, the eldest grandson, the lifeblood of the old man. The old man really felt painful to his old son Senbei, and he was more concerned about his grandchildren. Senbei frowned slightly, watching what Liang Feng wanted to say, but finally fell silent. His appearance fell in Liang Feng's eyes. He didn't know what to say for a while. After sitting with him for a while, Liang Feng spoke again, "Maybe it's useful." It's a pity that after he spoke these words, he only got a cold look in Senbei's eyes. "Okay," Liang Feng shrugged, "I just think that in such a big world, maybe there is some mysterious power that we don't know, right?" Senbei slightly raised the corners of his mouth, looking a little indifferent and fearless. "Okay, it's not early, you go back early." Seeing this, Liang Feng couldn't persuade him anymore, and after reporting the company's situation to Senbei, he got up and left. When passing by the nurse's station, he suddenly remembered the content of the nurse's chatting a few days ago. An expert showed feng shui at the patient's home and soon woke up. He didn't believe this statement at all in his heart, but thinking of the boss's indifferent look through life and death, he stopped and turned to look at the nurses on duty. It may be that he was lucky, and he saw the nurse who was talking about this gossip that day. He stepped forward and knocked on the desk of the nurse station and glanced at the work card hanging on the nurse. "Miss Zhang, I'm sorry to disturb you. I want to ask you a question, do you have time?" Nurse Zhang never thought that the people around the big man would find herself. She was stunned and turned to look at the head nurse sitting next to her. Seeing the head nurse nodding, she stood up and said, "Mr. Liang, please speak." Liang Feng looked around and said to Nurse Zhang, "I heard you say a few days ago that a patient who was almost a vegetative awakened. Could you please contact her family for me?" Nurse Zhang heard the words and said, "Please wait a moment. I will contact the patient's family and get his consent for this matter." Liang Feng smiled and nodded, "You have work." Du Dong has been in a good mood recently, and his chubby body is windy when he walks. My mother's operation was successful. I can go home after recuperating for a while. My wife's health is also mostly recovered. My daughter is still alive and clamoring to go to school. The company has received new capital injection and has a smooth turnover. All this is as good as the days before. Half a month were like nightmares. So when he learned that Sen Wei's assistant contacted him, although he didn't know why the other party was looking for him, he went to meet him politely. Superior. Du Dong's heart jumped, and a gentle smile was squeezed out on his face. Mr. Liang, the expert's whereabouts are uncertain. I will contact him first and then contact you, okay? Although he wanted to hug the Sen family's thigh, he was not a witty-eyed wolf. Liang Feng wanted to find Master Qi, but he was unwilling to explain his intentions. If he confessed to Master Qi in this way, what should he do if he brings trouble to Master Qi? Being a man can't forget his roots. Master Qi saved their family. He turned his head and sold them for profit. Then who did he become? Liang Feng could see that Du Dong was not telling the truth. He probably guessed the other person's mind and did not act too aggressively. He just smiled and said, I hope Mr. Du can bring me good news. Du Dong laughed twice, nodded and said nothing else. After Qi Yan learned that he had been on the TV station, he hid at home for several days. He was about to vomit when he ate takeout. So when Wang Hang called him and asked him to make a string, he agreed without hesitation. Business in the night market in summer is very good. The young girls in beautiful clothes, the hospitable guys, and the family group who come out for a walk together are crowded in the narrow and shabby streets, making it extremely lively. Wang Hang's car couldn't get in, so he could only walk in with Qi Yan. In the corner, he found the most prosperous stall and ordered a lot of skewers and 2 grilled fish. The two sat down at a simple table, and Wang Hang drank a cold beer. I met an elementary school classmate a few days ago and said that after his family invited an expert to watch Feng Shui, his luck gradually improved, and he said Gao Ren's surname is Qi, shouldn't this expert be you? What's your classmate's name? Qi Yan doesn't like to drink, so he bought a jar of cold herbal tea and drank it slowly. His name is Yang Tao. When we met before, his mouth was quite awkward. This time we met a lot. Wang Hang suddenly felt that the heat in his body had dissipated a lot, and his expression relaxed. Tell me quickly, is the expert their family invited you? Qi Yan nodded and said, I just met, so I helped to take a look. Hearing that, Wang Hang approached Qi Yan curiously, Qian, tell your brother, will you really change people's luck? I won't change people's luck, just let people take less detours. Qi Yan shook his head and said, there are times in fate, but there is no time to force it. I don't seem to understand what you said, Wang Hang scratched his head. But after thinking about it, it seems that I understand a little bit. It probably means that you are just helping people get what they should get, but you don't help people take away things that belong to other people. It's almost what I mean. Qi Yan stretched his finger to the top of his head. If you come around in a random manner, you will be punished. Wang Hang looked in admiration. Although he didn't understand many things, he felt very powerful. Last time you helped my house look at Feng Shui, it was a pity that you left when you saw it halfway. Wang Hang felt a little regretful in his heart, an expression of chagrin on his face. What's the matter? I just need to come to visit at a time, Qi Yan laughed. To be honest, I didn't notice anything bad in your house, so it doesn't make much difference if I don't see it. Upon hearing this, Wang Hang felt much better. After the boss delivered the skewers, he stopped his mouth after eating a few skewers and said in a low voice, I heard that the Sen family recently invited a great Feng Shui master at a high price. Would you like to try it? Qi Yan directly shook his head and said, no, the imperial capital is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and there are all kinds of powerful characters, I won't join in the fun. It's just that some of these powerful characters have real abilities, some are just fools, and don't know how to read Feng Shui at all, but a mouth can just say that death is alive. In fact, this can only be called greed, and there is another kind of person called evil. There are some scammers who not only make money, but also try to kill them. They use quack tricks to get wealth and make some people with little knowledge do stupid things. This kind of talent is the most deserving of 1,000 swords. When he was a child, he once saw a so-called goddess who said that the little girl of a certain family was Kamuk brothers, and then the family believed deeply in what the goddess said and beat and scolded the little girl. In the end, the little girl could not bear this kind of being. Abusive life, jumped into the river and committed suicide. After learning of this, the old man told him specifically that this is the evil in human nature. The goddess knew that girls' parents preferred sons over daughters and the family's economic conditions were not very good, so she caught their mentality and talked nonsense. There are also acts of not seeing a doctor when being sick, and asking gods to drink runes, all of which are ignorant. If sickness can be cured by just asking God, what else is there for doctors in this world? How can there be birth, old age, sickness, and death? Seeing more of these ignorant deceptions in remote small towns, Qi Yan became disgusted with these quack swindlers, and now he is unwilling to deal with these real or fake masters. I know you don't want to join in the fun, Wang Hang wiped his greasy mouth. The big tree of the Sen family has too many people to hug. The noble person you were going to visit in the hospital before was from the Sen family. Qi Yan liked to eat chicken wings, so he quickly ate 2 skewers. He seemed very casual when he mentioned the tone of the Sen family. Everyone has to go to the hospital to show sincerity. We don't make a trip to our house, it won't look good. Wang Hang knew very well in his heart that with their family background, ordinary people can still see them, and they can be seen by the Sen family. Come, that's scum. He waved his hand, but no one saw anyone. Qi Yan expressed his understanding that human relations are the norm. When the two of them finished the skewers and were about to go home through the alley, they saw a thin man on the side of the road showing the palms of the 2 young girls. If you just look at the palmistry, the man kept touching the hands of one of the little girls, obviously with impure intentions. The little girl caught her hand, realized something was wrong and wanted to retract her hand, but the man held it so tightly that she couldn't move at all. Perceiving the little girl's repulsive behavior, the skinny man said helplessly, "Little girl, I think your boyfriend seems to have other thoughts." The little girl looked at the man in surprise, forgetting the struggle. How does he know he has a boyfriend? The author has something to say. Ziokyunkyun, believe in science, not feudal superstition.